30 Days by It's_Kingston on AO3. Episode 12, Chapter 7, Distance. September 3rd. Hey, Blight-y. I've missed your constant lack of humor lately. When are you moving back in? Luce asked as she walked beside Amity, getting no acknowledgement from the girl. Stepping in front of her, Luce asked again. Hello? Are you home? I asked when you were moving back in. I'm not. Amity's tone was cold and concise, like a polished blade tearing through Luce's hopeful demeanor. Oh, why not? Luce asked, standing in place as Amity walked around her. I simply believe it is better to live alone, Amity stated. If you could leave me alone, that would be splendid. Yeah, sure, I'd see you tomorrow, Luce murmured before walking away. September 6th. Hey, you haven't been around here the past few days. I couldn't find you, Luce said as she walked up to Amity. No, I have been. I was avoiding you, Amity said bluntly, not looking up from the book that she held. You're hilarious, Blight-y, Luce said sarcastically, trying to force a smile. Amity looked up at her, and Luce found no evidence that she was joking. Oh, I'll leave you be. September 8th. Hello? Luce murmured as she passed Amity in the hallways. Her normally glowing smile was nowhere to be found. Hello, Amity said back, coldly. Then Luce walked away, not saying another word. Amity stepped into the bathroom, locking the door behind her before leaning against it and sighing. I hope she's okay. It was now September 9th, meaning it had been a week since Luce had talked to Amity normally. Her expression and bleak demeanor seethed into Luce's mind. How she looked afraid, like she'd been caught and was about to pay the price. Unbeknownst to Luce, she was exactly right. On September 2nd, Luce was left there, standing on the sidewalk as she watched the black car drive away, and Amity had already walked inside, quickly giving an explanation before doing so. Something about an exam? Luce was still processing the matter as she sat on the edge of the bed, hours later. Hell, it had been a week, and she still thinked about it. Their plans had completely fell through. Well, that was the least of their problems. Luce had watched Sonfury as Amity's stuff was removed from the room. By the time they were done, it felt like she'd never been there. As if to only remind her of the tears building up around her eyes, it started to downpour, the rain pattering off the roof in a sad lullaby as Luce tried to convince herself it wasn't her fault. Yeah, right, if she'd ever bothered to talk to me. Luce couldn't help but think that way, especially after almost costing her team the game. Her mind was flooded with flashbacks as she remembered the match. September 8th, before the match. Watch out! A basketball hit Luce on the shoulder, startling her out of her thoughts. Sorry, I thought you were looking, Boscha asked as Luce tossed the ball back. I'm fine, Luce murmured, staring quietly at her shoes. What's wrong? You've been a little off all week. Boscha sat down at the bleachers behind Luce and gesturing for her to do the same. Just some personal issues. I'm fine, Luce said as she sat back down. She looked at Boscha, unconvinced expression, before adding, Seriously, I'm okay. We should get back to practice before the game. Okay. Boscha trailed off as she watched the students on the court, before turning back to Luce. Just let me know if someone's messing with you. I'll show them what happens when you mess with the banshees, she declared, punching the air in front of her. Thanks, Luce said, the charade causing her to smile. Don't mention it. Now let's get back out there, Boscha said, standing up and pointing to the court like a pirate would to dry land. September 8th, during the match. You've got it. Go for it. Let's go. The cheers of Luce's teammates filled her ears as she ran down the court, weaving between players as she dribbled the ball. She was in position completely open, at the three-pointer line. She focused on the net, aimed quickly, and then... Was that Amity? Here, in the crowd. Luce could have sworn she saw the green-haired girl amongst the cheering crowd. The ball left Luce's hand, though she hadn't meant to let go, the momentary distraction causing her to lose grip. With a thud, it hit the blackboard and bounced back. Luckily, Sakura had run over to cover Luz and was able to dunk the ball in. "Whoa, let's go!" Sakura shouted as she held her hand up for Luz for a high five. "Yeah." Luz weakly returned it, getting a disappointed glance from Sakura. "You okay?" Sakura asked, raising her voice above the cheering crowd. Luz just nodded, giving her best reassuring smile to go with it, before walking off. "Nice job! We're up by 2 points thanks to you and Sakura." Boscha clapped Luz on the back as she walked back, smiling brightly. She jogged over to Sakura and gave her a similar congratulations. Luz sighed and grabbed her water bottle, chugging it a bit while she had time. She scanned the crowd again, looking for Amity, despite knowing she probably wasn't there. No, she wasn't. Amity wasn't friends with anyone on the team. Not anymore, at least. "Come on, Luz," Boscha called, waving hastily for Luz to get back on the court. "Shit," Luz murmured as she ran over, taking her place. Luz wasn't sure what happened. She was too preoccupied by how she couldn't help Amity. She didn't know when she'd passed the ball, or how she even caught it. She also couldn't remember when Sakura gestured to her, signaling the play. All she could remember was running, and missing her shot, letting the team down. Again. For the second time that game. All because she couldn't focus. Boscha grabbed the ball after it bounced off the rim, and passed it to Kat, who scored from the three-pointer line. Luz stood there, unmoving, as the players rushed off the court around her. Yeah, her team just won the first game of the season by 5 points, but it wasn't her victory. Luz nearly lost. September 9th, present day. Luz was laying in her bed, curled up under the blankets as she tried to fall asleep. Normally calm rain made her want to cry as she tossed and turned around the bed. Not that she could have cried. Luz was almost positive she used up all the tears she had. Music wasn't helping either. It always seemed to remind her of Amity. And Little Miss Perfect coming on was just salt in the wound. Luz couldn't drift off to sleep, her thoughts eating away at her as she laid quietly in the dark. The silence sounded louder than anything else as she tried to ignore the question burning in her head. Was that my fault? Luz was starting to hear her own voice, quiet and grainy from crying. That seemed to be her wake-up call, shaking her out of her head and back into the real world. And the real world, it didn't care that she wanted to lay down and cry. It was going to keep moving, and it wasn't going to stop just because her feelings were hurt. Taking a breath, Luz sat up. She knew she had done something to help Amity, or at least check on her. But what? Luz couldn't talk to Amity directly. Maybe indirectly? Through someone else. Maybe not. Luz wasn't sure Amity would trust anyone to deliver the exact message back and forth. Deliver. Huh. A small smile formed on Luz's face as she stood up from her bed, the blankets trailing behind her like a cape as she walked to her desk. She opened the drawer and grabbed a piece of paper, revealing the agreement hidden below. Taking a few minutes to trace her fingers over the letter of the page, Luz smiled sadly, her mind replaying the day they created it. Her mind was made up. Luz wasn't going to lose Amity. She was going to set things straight, one way or another. They're fighting. Kingston, you hurt me. Kingston, you are a thorn in my path, but a simply okay, no, I'm gonna stop. I could speak in really cool cool writings when it comes to when I sit down and I write, but the second I have to sit here and say it out loud with my physical words, it does not come to me naturally, you know. I don't know what that voice was. Just ignore that voice. But like, if I want to speak in the old-timey ways, I can't do it. I can't do it normally. It takes too much time to process in my mind, so the only way I can do it is on writing, which is why For My Kingdom is so good. But apart from that, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm sad, I'm depressed. Have I mentioned that I'm sad and depressed? Why? Okay, hopefully this only lasts one chapter. Like, fingers crossed, it's just one chapter. It's like a silly hee hee ha ha, just one chapter, right? Kingston? It's just one chapter, right? Kingston. One chapter? Un capítulo? Solo uno? Por favor? Please? Por flavor? Just one chapter? You can't put me through this. Okay. Dramatics aside. Dramatics aside. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.